A very good evening and thank you for being a part of our network. My name is Sphumelele Zondi. Feuds between mobile phone network providers and ICASA continue in South Africa. Zimbabwe is planning an Ict conference. It will take place this week in the Southern African country. The South African government is paying us a visit tonight to talk about its green paper on ICT. We also have guests who will tell us about the innovation awards that have already taken place. We are live, so find us on SABC Network on Facebook and Twitter, News Network at sabc.co.za on email. Let's start with your technology and social media news. Telkom and MTN have entered into an agreement that enables the two to roam each other's networks. This will be a boost for Telkom Mobile, which has been failing to make profits since its launch in 2010. In fact, Telkom Mobile has reported losses. Telkom says the deal will expand its network and reduce costs. They stress that this is purely a deal for radio access network, nothing more. The deal will make it easy for Telkom to provide 2G, 3G and long-term evolution or LTE networks without paying too much. MTN is also reporting a slowdown in business in its home country, South Africa. Despite this, MTN is still showing an incredible growth in Nigeria and other markets. The last few weeks have seen MTN and Vodacom take their regulator to court. This is because the Independent Communications Authority of South Africa, ICASA, wants to reduce the money charged by bigger operators when carrying calls from Cell C and Telkom Mobile. Cell C and Telkom have expressed unhappiness over MTN and Vodacom's decision, but MTN says the network operator isn't quite against the reduction of costs. Earlier in the week, MTN released figures that didn't paint a good picture of profits in South Africa. Some of their business is going to much smaller Cell C. Cell C and Telkom Mobile could be getting another boost from regulator, the Independent Communications Authority of South Africa, ICASA. They're cutting cost termination rates.
The cost of termination is a cost that you and I as consumers are not aware of, but it's something that you and I pay every time we call a friend of ours on their mobile phone. So if I call you and you're on Vodacom and I'm on MTN, it means that MTN has to pay Vodacom for carrying the call. And where does MTN get that money from? They get it from you and I.
But MTN and Vodacom aren't happy about this. They've taken the regulator to court, something that has led to Telkom writing an open letter. Cell C says the bigger players need to stop fighting this as it will not dent their business.
We will definitely weigh in and say that's not correct. You know, I explained to you about their revenues. The Vodacom's over 60 billion, MTN's over 40 billion. This is not going to have a significant impact on their businesses. So, you know, we don't believe that the balance of convenience favors them. In fact, we believe it favors the South African consumer. Obviously, it also favors the smaller operators. And this regulation needs to come into effect as soon as possible.
MTN says they're not against tariff cuts. They just need ICASA to explain a few things.
There is no truth in that we are against the reduction of termination rates. There's absolutely no truth in that. All we are asking for is, can we see the methodology by which ICASA has come to the numbers that it has come to?
South Africans would then have to wait as this plays out in court. Public transport commuters in South Africa's richest province, Gauteng, will have their lives made slightly easier now. A new application, GauRider, has been launched for those using Gautrain and Gau buses. The application gives exact times of where the transport is. About 5 commuters use the Gautrain. The GauRider application runs on Apple's latest mobile operating system, iOS 7. It's available on the iStore for about 40 Rand. It's the first Gautrain application that is Apple ready. GauRider has been created by independent developer Lita Soizapi. The South African Department of Science and Technology has released a report of 2 near-space collisions involving a local satellite. The Tepiso satellite, manufactured at the Cape Peninsula University of Technology, CPUT, flew at dangerously close distances to defunct Russian satellites. In late February, here's Tsele Khaswane with the details.
The relative peacefulness of outer space was almost broken in the last 2 weeks. This, the first locally manufactured nanosatellite, the Tshepisosat, was involved in 2 close encounters with space debris. This happened on 2 successive days and on both occasions with defunct Russian satellites. Tshepiso's first near collision was with the Cosmos 2151 satellite within an estimated 150 meters over Antarctica. Less than 24 hours later and over Brazil, Tshepiso came within 85 meters of yet another defunct Russian satellite, the Meteor 2.5. This begs the question, what could have been the effects of a collision?
Velocities in space of these things are extremely high, so things are moving at speeds far greater than those of a bullet compared to each other. So you can consider even a small collision would mean catastrophe for anything in space. So in the case of Tshepiso, if something like a defunct satellite would hit it, it would really render it completely useless.
The National Space Agency, SANSA, was on both occasions notified by the United States Joint Space Operations Center of the close approaches. SANSA found itself helpless as the thrust of the Tshepiso satellite cannot be controlled from Earth. So, what is the latest update on Tshepiso?
It seems the satellite is in perfect health, so the conjunctions occurred, but obviously there was no collision because there has since been contact with the spacecraft.
Tshepiso has been in orbit for 3 months and orbits the Earth up to 15 times a day. Its main purpose is to provide valuable space weather data to SANSA.
The Zimbabwean capital, Harare, is to play host to the 2014 Ict Africa Expo. The expo is to start on Tuesday, the 11th of March. The Ministry of Information Communication Technology says the event will provide a further impetus for the adoption of ICTs on the continent. Industry experts are expected to attend. The expo will be hosted at the Harare International Conference Center and will conclude on Thursday. Yesterday was International Women's Day. As a result, Sarah Kimani spent some time with a mental health blogger from Kenya. Her name is Sitawa Wafula, and she's one of the Africa Connected nominees.
You're online, you're doing research about mental health in Kenya, you come across my blog.
When we meet Sitawa Wafula, she's conducting a blogging class. These are her latest recruits into the world of blogging. She's teaching them how to blog on mental health issues.
I'm doing this, I would say, for very selfish reasons. I have a mental health condition myself, which I developed after a rape ordeal. And I didn't have that information at that time. Based on that experience, I'm doing it because I didn't want anyone else to go through the same thing. I want us to be a movement together.
Her rape ordeal, a misdiagnosis, lack of information and support on mental health issues meant her recovery was long. The 28-year-old poet found solace in writing.
One day I learned about writing therapy online, and I said, okay, let me try. And the first story I put up was about my rape ordeal, and I just poured my heart out. There was so much feedback, and I said this would be a really nice platform just to connect with people and hear what their stories are. And in the beginning, it wasn't really to help anyone. It was just to know that I'm not alone.
She has not stopped blogging since then.
And people started asking me for support and information, and that now pushed me to get more information and look for therapy ways and, you know, researching about it.
As the world marks International Women's Day on Saturday, she's clear on what way for the woman.
You're human first, and because you're human, there are those rights that are accorded to you, and no one can take or should take those rights from you.
She has been nominated as a finalist in the Africa Connected competition organized by Google in partnership with various organizations, including the SABC. The competition recognizes success stories powered by the web.
It's a community that is...
Apple's voice command Siri will be available in Ferraris and some popular luxury cars. This was made possible through collaborations by the tech giant and the Italian sports vehicle manufacturer.
It looks like Kit, the talking automobile from the 80s fictional series Knight Rider, has time traveled into the 21st century. Only this time, it is called Siri. Apple's voice command will be integrated with Italian sports cars, Ferrari, as well as vehicles from Mercedes and Volvo. This is an effort to improve safe driving.
The technology will allow drivers to control Apple apps, including iTunes, Maps and messaging, all with spoken commands. It will also boost safety by allowing drivers to operate their iPhones with minimum distraction.
Apple's operating system will allow drivers to send text messages, play music, and even use navigation maps without constantly looking down on their devices.
As I scroll down here, I'll see emails. So this is from my recent emails that have locations in them. So if a friend said, do you want to go get dinner at a certain location, that be here with one tap I could get directions.
This high-tech feature dubbed CarPlay is only limited to Apple's latest devices, which will increase handset sales for the tech giant. However, Google's Android operating system is set to follow suit, only they will be installing software inside Audi vehicles.
It's SABC Network on Facebook and Twitter, and we're on News Network at sabc.co.za and email. Let's take a short break now.
Capitec Bank is asking why to simplify banking. Do you know what your bank costs are?
I don't know, but I know it's too much.
At 65 Rand?
Between 200 and 250.
I don't, but I know it's too much. It's too much, yeah.
Why don't you switch banks?
Switch!
Yo, way too much of a hassle, my man.
We help 100,000 people open accounts at Capitec Bank every month. If you haven't joined us yet, ask why.
What time is it? It's question time. I do not trust your criticism because, after all, you don't like the members of this committee. Why should we believe that you're going to like anything that they come up with?
We can't trust the Professor Njabule Ndebele, who was the Vice Chancellor of Cape Town. Bani Pichan was the Vice Chancellor of UNISA.
That's question time with me, Mpho Tsedu, Monday to Saturday, 5:30 p.m. on SABC News.
Welcome back. Shortly, we'll chat about South Africa's Green Paper on Information and Communications Technologies, ICT. But first, let's familiarize ourselves with some examples of ICTs assisting in improving service delivery to the public.
South Africa has registered some successes in regard to its e-governance policy. The Minister of Communications says this means more citizens have access to government services with the help of communications devices.
What matters is, do we get our broadband going? Do we get ICT going? And do we settle this digital migration?
Minister Eunice Karim highlights the extremely successful electronic tax filing offered by the country's revenue services, SARS. Through smart service, the country has been able to raise its tax base, hence gaining more revenue to roll out much-needed public services. The high-tech processing of official documents has also led to reported efficiency at the once notorious Department of Home Affairs. This while the post office electronic access points significantly facilitate links between the urban and rural people. The contribution of ICT sector to the economy in the year 2012 was 6%. The telecommunications sector market alone in South Africa has grown from around 8.2 billion rands in 1993 to more than 179 billion rands 20 years later.
National discussions on South Africa's Green Paper on ICT have already started. The deadline for public comment has also been postponed to March 24. Joining us in the studio to talk about this is Joe Mjwacha, the chairperson of the ICT Policy Review Panel. Hello and thank you for being a part of our network.
Good evening to you and the viewers.
Perhaps maybe we should start by explaining what the National Green Paper on ICT actually is.
Let me start talking about the process itself. Government started the process of discussing what needs to be done in the ICT environment and how the ICTs are going to be infused into every facet of South African life way back in 2012. There was a national colloquium which called together or pulled together people actually who were participating in the industry, which was followed then by the launch of the panel. It's about 22 experts coming from various areas. And then we started our work. The first discussion document which we published, it was in April of last year. It was a vision document. We were talking about the objectives and the principles which are going to guide the process. And then the second document which we have issued is this one, which is the integrated ICT policy green paper. Now this one is giving you, in the main, the lie of the landscape with respect to the ICTs in South Africa. What are the services which are there? Where do we get services? What are the gaps which are there? What are we going to be doing with respect to the objectives actually which have not yet been realized but which were there in the past? It looks into telecommunications, it looks into broadcasting, it looks to postal matters, it looks at e-commerce and m-commerce, it looks at the skills area, what are we going to do to train people actually to be participant in this new environment. And also it deals with the institutional arrangements.
Okay, and when does it become a white paper?
Now, from here, we're then going to be issuing an options paper. Now, that would be after about 3 months. So we will be issuing an options paper which is going to be saying, this is the issue which we are uncovering as important. These are the options to address it. After that, then again, the public will be given the opportunity to make inputs and contributions with respect to those options. And then after that, the panel is going to be making final recommendations to government as to the future policies which have to be drafted. Now, once the policies have been adopted by government, then the new legislation is going to be drafted. Post the legislation, then the new institutions are going to be started and the new way of doing things, which is going to be then embarked upon.
Now, you've started going around the country to get some of that public comment. Can you tell us about the process?
Now, we launched last week in Gauteng the national public hearings. And in the hearings, we've got various entities which are participating in the sector. We have got the NGOs who are participating in the sector. We have got individuals who are interested in what actually the issues which are being discussed, also participating. I think we had about 500 people who participated in that discussion here in Gauteng. We then followed that up with a public hearing, which is a provincial hearing, which we launched last week again, I think on Friday, in Rustenburg. We will be going to Mpumalanga next week, and then after that we'll be going to KZN. Then from KZN we're going to be going to Limpopo. From Limpopo then we're going to be going to the Northern Cape, to the Western Cape, to the Eastern Cape, to Free State also.
How important is it that people attend these meetings and then they participate in these public discussions and have comment on what is going to be legislation eventually?
There are two methods of engagement. There is the engagement through this formal process where the ICT panel and the Department of Communication engage with people. And I think in terms of trying to identify the areas which are important for people. Post that, as we have indicated, we are also asking for public written inputs so that people actually can then also have the opportunity to address all the issues they want to address, and even issues which are not covered in the paper, which they feel that we should address.
More details online?
I think if you go to the website of the Department of Communication, you're going to be getting on the landing page this ICT policy, ICT integrated policy documents. There will be research which we are using. We've done extensive research with respect to the state of South African ICTs, what is there and what is not there. But we have also collated research from others who have ever done research in the last 10 years.
All right, so Mr. Joe Mjwacha, Chairperson of the ICT Policy Review Panel, thank you very much for being a part of our network tonight.
Thank you very much.
All right, now a mobile phone application that can translate the country's 11 official languages has launched in South Africa. It was created by 24-year-old Cape Townian Glenn Steyn.
Aweza is a South African language translator. The mobile app has been created by Cape Town-based software developer Glenn Stein. He was on SABC's Morning Live to explain what this app is about.
It's a phraselator, as some would call it. You choose the language you want to translate from and the language you want to translate to. Then you choose from a list of categories, for example, at the garage, and then it gives you a list of phrases that are relevant to that context, being in the garage. And then as you scroll through the list, it gives you the translation in the language you want to translate to.
As you can imagine, it can be difficult to communicate in a country where there are 11 official languages.
We're trying to get South Africans using the app to engage with each other, even though it's anonymously through a mobile platform. But you know, it's creating a conversation amongst the nation.
The app can be easily downloaded from Android's Google Play Store. It has been reported as the 11th most downloaded app in South Africa.
Remember to find us on SABC Network on Facebook and Twitter. Let's take a short break.
There's been more gunfire in Juba, the capital of South Sudan. That's for a second successive day after the authorities there said they foiled an attempted coup.
Well, European Central Bank President Mario Draghi says the European Union's latest plans to wind up failing euro banks.
I urge you and the Council to swiftly set up a robust single resolution mechanism, a single system, a single authority and a single fund.
That's News at 1, daily at 1 p.m. on SABC News.
Your World provides trusted world, continent and local stories. We deliver breaking news from across the globe and information on the latest top stories on business, technology, politics and sport. Analysis of the big global business and economic issues as they affect consumers and investors. Make sure you don't miss Your World, weekdays between 11 and 12 midnight. We keep the nation fully informed.
SABC Network on Facebook and Twitter. It's one word, SABC Network. The Innovation Product of the Year Awards took place in the last week. Pick n Pay walked away with the Innovation Supermarket of the Year award. This was partly because of their online shopping feature. To tell us more about this is Pritesh Suraj. He is the CEO and Chief Innovation Analyst at Product of the Year. Hello and welcome, Pritesh.
Hi, good evening, and thanks for having me on Network.
Yeah. Now, what is Product of the Year?
So Product of the Year is basically a research platform. We've been around for about 26 years globally. And what we do is we challenge manufacturers and service providers out there to say, if you really have such innovative products, we're going to do this research on behalf of the consumer and see if your products really are as innovative as you claim they are.
You do the research and then you have the awards.
Then we have the awards. I mean, the research is a lot of work. 5,000 homes, one-on-one face-to-face interviews. And post that we go we go into this huge research award where we have close to 1,000 guests who come and celebrate the wins.
Why did you think Pick n Pay won Innovative Supermarket of the Year?
I think it's an interesting thing that Pick n Pay is doing because perishable goods are very difficult to actually go out and deliver out there. And from a technology point of view, Pick n Pay has gone out and created this online shopping platform that's available to every South African. It's not very niche. Anyone with a computer can go out and access it and choose to purchase products which they can take home.
Pick n Pay was not the only winner which uses tech spaces. You have others.
Oh, yeah, no, we have quite a few others who've used it. Obviously, Vodacom, from a ICT perspective, I mean, it's fantastic. Everyone knows the work that they're doing. They've launched M-Pesa a few years back, which is catching traction really, really now, which is the ability to transfer money from mobile phone to mobile phone and then go to a bank and actually actually withdraw that.
And do you think M-Pesa is catching on in South Africa? I know it's big in East Africa.
It's huge in East Africa. I don't think it's as big in South Africa as it should be or it deserves to be. But I think as they educate more consumers and get consumers to understand it, it's catching on slowly. So it's a slow process and it's a slow burn, but when it does actually grow big, it's going to be fantastic and huge.
Now, is e-commerce big in South Africa from the research that you've been doing?
So what we've seen is e-commerce is obviously quite large amongst higher income consumers themselves, but we still have a long way to go to be at the point that our North American and European counterparts are at. We tend to find that the likes of Pick n Pay are trying to make it more accessible to a wide range of South Africans who are out there. But we're still quite a far way back.
Now, I would believe that the work doesn't stop now that you've had the awards. You probably are starting to prepare for the next one.
We do. I mean, the awards is only the beginning for the start for the platform for the next one. So right now we're challenging other companies. We're having the look at the innovation pipeline that the banks and people in the ICT services industries are putting out there and trying to see, are they really releasing anything that's innovative? And if it is innovative, we're going to be able to put it into our research and see if South Africans love it.
All right, Pritesh Suraj from Products of the Year. Thank you very much for being a part of our network tonight.
Thanks for having me on.
All right. Now let's take a look at some of what's been happening in social media. Bafana lost 5-0 to Brazil in the middle of the week. When that happened, many took to social media to request that the national team starts improving the way it plays. Some mocked the South African team, with others saying they expected the outcome. And South Africa's power provider Eskom has had a few power cuts lately. The media gave various reasons for the problems at Eskom. In social media, it doesn't seem South Africans are happy with the explanations they've been getting. All they want is to have some power back, as parts of the country have been experiencing some cold weather lately. This one tells Eskom to switch off all unnecessary appliances, including e-toll gantries. That's all we have for you today. Find us on SABC Network on Facebook and Twitter. We play out with a video that's gone viral in social media. It's of a young boy who ran onto the pitch during the Bafana Brazil match. It gave him a chance to meet his idols, Brazil football players. Undoubtedly, Wednesday was one of the best days of his young life. From me and the rest of the team, have a good one.